Does that have to be there? So we could absolutely.
I don't know. It looks like that's the length of the cord.
There's quite a long thing.
I don't know if I can mess with things.
Okay, good morning. I'm not sure if you can. The meeting will come to order. This is a special meeting to consider the demolition of the existing library as part of the new library project. First, I'd like to welcome Frederick Whitmer, who's joining our committee. Welcome, Frederick. And I'd like to thank all of you for making time to be here during the vacation month of August. Okay, so first review and approval of minutes from July 14th. Is there a motion to waive the reading of the minutes? Second, all in favor? Goes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Second, all in favor? Approved. Okay, the minutes are approved. We'll start with okay, the application for demolition of the existing library has been filed, and before we start, I just wanted to point out there was a little bit of confusion as to what is being demolished, upon which the owner issued a new plan that indicates the areas of demolition and the portion to be saved. And I made a copy for the committee so that the footprint highlighted in yellow indicates the footprint of the existing library, and the area in blue is the portion that's part of the original 1913 library, which is being saved and ultimately planned to be moved to the to the west side of the property. I've also dotted in a portion in the back of the blue library, the blue building. So the portion that is part of the existing, the original 1913 building, which is proposed to be demolished at this time, but I believe is an issue both with demolition and with the moving of the building. So now we've received many letters, basic theme being that a significant portion of New Canaan history is being destroyed. One letter which stands out very conveniently is a very detailed and thorough letter from Mimi Finley, basically going through the history of early history of New Canaan, early plans of planning for the library, the process of building the library, the architects involved, and the significant period of the town that was around the turn of the century, when the town grew rapidly and became more engaged with people coming from New York, et cetera. And so the library and the town hall, which was built around the same time, represent buildings that accentuated that dynamic period of the town. So why don't we start with public comments, hopefully ones that were not already written as objections, but I invite the public to make comments to add to the issue we described.
So we have some people who have signed up, and if anyone wants to speak, they can add their name to the list. The first person we have signed up here is Patricia Font. We ask that you do not repeat anything that may have been submitted, as he just said, and limit your statement to 2 minutes. If you would like to be on the screen, if you would stand back here. Okay. And you state your name and your address, please.
Okay. Hi, I'm Patricia Von Doxman. I live at 277 Davenport Ridge Road, New Canaan, Connecticut, as I have been for 31 years, resident of New Canaan. And I live in a 1740 house. So I care about history and old buildings. For well over 2 years, I've been joining many people who oppose the destruction of this obvious, important, historic landmark, our own 1913 library, which I believe, like so many do, needs to be kept in place and whole, because half a building—
I can see you're speaking, but I can't hear anything.
Oh, you're muted.
No, it should be picked up by the you can hear us, Frederick? Can you hear me?
I'm on Zoom and I can hear her fine.
Frederick, can you hear us?
I can hear her fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think if you look at your screen and you up the sound for your video, Mr. Whitmer, you should be able to hear.
We can't hear anything.
You're having internal problems.
Well, maybe I can email him something. Go ahead, Patricia.
So continue.
Yes, please.
Okay. The building is so loved by so many. It has so many rich memories for so many people. It is a visual landmark that means New Canaan. I just couldn't feel more strongly about saving it. I sort of imagine a future, a lot of talk has been come about. Like,
enter your meeting ID followed by pound.
Let me see here. Let me mute here. I'm sorry. Sorry.
A lot of talk has, from the library side, a lot of talk has been about memorializing the building and saving it in parts. But I sort of picture a memorial for a great old friend who died too early. This building has a lot more life to give. Thank you.
In spite of all of our sorry, apologies. The next person is Charles Robinson.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm Charles Robinson. I live at 4 Carter Street here in New Canaan. My comments go to common sense at the start, common sense in the middle, and common sense throughout the process till the end. It's absolutely acknowledged that the 1913 library is a landmark and an icon. It remains so to this day, as it's the showcasing the new library for the existing library. It's suitable, safe enough, accommodating enough for the library operations for all the years I've lived in New Canaan, which are now just about 25. And it continues and will until the library can move operations into the new thing. It's settled. It's a landmark. It's iconic. I have multiple tote bags for the little bit of donations my family has given. It's the showcase thing on the tote bag. They're cherished. Common sense says, use it. We use it. Like Patricia, I live in a very old house, 1732, and it's quite useful. Purpose the way we've got it. All this can be done. Third, there is no reason whatsoever for the library to have to raise money to move it to partially destroy it, incur any issues with it, because the New Canaan Preservation Alliance has publicly offered the library board, the townspeople of New Canaan, and the government of New Canaan across its branches that we will raise money to repurpose it. We'll repurpose it and give it back to the library, thus repurposed. There is no reason to put any burden, not a cent of burden, on New Canaan's taxpayers to do anything with the 1913 library other than say, thank you very much for doing that. I rest my case. Common sense, people, please. Thank you.
Warren Tuttle.
Hello, my name is Warren Tuttle. My wife Lynn and I live at 722 Silver Mine Road. Our 3 daughters grew up in high school here. I also grew up in New Canaan since 1958. I actually, one of the few people probably said, I don't know if I can say I learned how to read in the library, but I went to weekly reading sessions there as a child, 5 and 6 years old. So I'm coming from that perspective. I also chaired in Darien. I had business in Darien for 11 years, the downtown revitalization task force there in the 80s and 90s. And it was like to pull a community together and get behind a major league project. For some reason, this project seems to have gone off the rails after 2019, and it was reported that the initial library, the original library, was part of the plan. Somehow that got left behind. Somehow there's also seems to be a feeling among a lot of younger people that the old folks like us are in favor of the new library because we want to keep the old one as well. That couldn't be farther from the truth. Spend my career in innovation. I'm all about new stuff. The idea is to do something new while keeping the old intact. We need two things that I've seen here, that there's been just tremendous, disarray and a lot of infighting among the town, which is ridiculous. When a significant portion of the town wants to accomplish something, their feelings and position shouldn't be overrun. And the second thing I want to say is just watching New Canaan, this place is really losing its charm, and hopefully the historical groups and historical committees and all this can have a backbone and stand up for what this town needs. I mean, for God's sakes, the original library was the cover photo of the historical downtown plan, really, along with the town hall, as it's central to this town. If you look around at the buildings going up, this is no longer, the town. Now, if it's better, great. We want to improve it. But in this case, there's not enough unity being shown and pulling things together. So I hope that you guys really take a strong position on this and keep it, keep this original library the way it is. Thank you.
Here Spring.
Thanks. Do you mind if I just sit down? I don't care if I'm on the photo or not.
Okay.
That little tiny print card there, it's so small. I can't read it.
Can you speak up so that?
Right. I'm here because I also am concerned about the library, whether the options that have been considered.
State your address.
Oh, I'm sorry, 24 Garish Lane. The options that have been explored, whether they're concrete enough to even have a demolition delay at this point. I'm wondering about this because we haven't seen the new plan, and there are other considerations. It's not a foregone conclusion, as the building department was quoted in this article in the Norwalk Hour. There are possibilities, and those aren't clear either. So I would suggest that maybe there should be some emergency special meetings called by the Board of Selectmen to clarify the dollars, first of all, or ask the Board of Finance to clarify the dollars. What is happening with the moving of the small facade? I can't recall what the dollars are. Possibly I should, but I don't think it's clear. And I don't think the plan was clear. And now there's a new one, but I haven't seen it. And I think before we rush into something like this, we should know what the facts are. And we should also have an understanding of the options. And, aside from that, I think the contribution of the New Canaan Preservation Alliance also was a handsome offer. I was not involved with it, so I don't even recall how it worked, but I think there are too many mechanisms here to say you can come up with a clear, sensible solution without further information. So perhaps the demolition should be withdrawn entirely. But anyway, I hope whatever you all decide is a sensible solution based on dollars, architecture, which Mimi and other people can speak to better than I can. But I think it is a significant building. I think it is a town landmark. And I agree that something further should be done to consider what the options really are. I know the Secretary of the Interior standards for moving buildings is not being met if you take a little piece of a facade and put it on the back of a garage. And there are these confusions that I think still exist and need further, explanation. Thank you.
Lisa Oldham.
Good morning, I'm Lisa Oldham, representing the library at 151 Main Street. The library is very pleased to have made an exceptional, wonderful compromise, we feel, in saving the 1913 building, as it's come to be called, the original building. The front 2 rooms, which is not a facade, it is 20 feet deep by 65 feet long and is the entire usable portion of what's there. It will be moved on the site, which will be a delightful new place for it, allowing it to look over the new green. To be clear, and just to make sure the facts are here, no municipal monies have been offered for this project for the original library. We are here in the room if anybody did want to ask questions.
Stephen Simpson.
My name is Keith Simpson. I live at 2 Warwell Drive in New Canaan, and I'd just like to read my comments. During early discussions around upgrading the conditions of the New Canaan Library, and well before the library's current directorship was in place, the library board involved its Centerbook architects in seeking public opinion from a wide diversity of New Canaan residents about what they wanted to see in the library's future plans. According to those participants and in those meetings, respectful treatment and preservation of the 1913 building was always high on the quote must-have list of architectural elements to be included. Those strong public sentiments subsequently got lost until a decision was made to demolish the 1913 building in a secret library board meeting. That decision was deliberately withheld from the public at large for a prolonged period of time because of anticipated public questioning and opposition to such decisions. Now, after many public hearings and with much wider public understanding of the library's plans becoming known, the library recognized that the total demolition decision was a mistake, and it has changed its position and decided as a preservation gesture to move a small front piece of the 1913 building over to a new location on its property. In my opinion, trying to move any portion of the 139-year-old building is absurdly risky and massively expensive, and moving it into a far corner of the library's property is practically and financially and aesthetically irresponsible, but it makes absolutely no common sense. It is not being done to make way for an important highway safety improvement or other compelling public good. The 1913 library belongs where it was built all those years ago, where it currently sits, and it should not move just because without it there will be, quote, a better view of the new library building from Main and Cherry Streets, which is how the library's reasoning has been presented to the public. If its current plan proceeds, millions of hard-raised dollars will have been wasted on this unnecessary exercise, resulting in a permanent, highly conspicuous reminder of the library's deeply flawed site planning decisions. This does not have to happen, The plan I put forward many months ago keeps the 1913 building and its valuable full gallery space in place, and it provides a ready handicap-friendly covered access out onto the green space which both the library and the building can share in the future. It's a common sense, highly functional, far more financially responsible plan, and it keeps the highly valued, iconic, original 1913 building firmly in its historic location where it belongs. Thank you.
We have one more person from the audience signed up. If anyone who is joining us remotely wants to speak, please raise your hand. There we go. Okay. If everyone knows how to do that, otherwise we'll have to figure it out. If anyone else from the audience wants to sign up to speak, there's a sheet here. So the last one from our audience is Mimi Finley.
My name is Mimi Finley. I'm at 10 Father Peters Lane. I've lived there for over 50 years. I lived in Darien and Wilton before that. We're both towns extremely preservation minded. This has been a uphill battle all the way. New Canaan, we started the Preservation Alliance in 08, I think, 2008. And soon after, when we heard about the possibility of the library being demolished, I personally went right over to talk to Lisa Oldham and told her that they would be receiving opposition to any demolition to the old library, the 1913. And in case you wondered what 1913 was, I have some pictures here which I will try to hold up. Do you have, oh, you have beautiful photographs, yes. And I'm looking for the floor plan. Here it is. The old library consists of basically 4 or 5 rooms. Can we see the floor plan? I don't see me up there. Where do I hold it to?
No, I think it's too far away.
It's probably going to be too far.
Well, there are 2 rooms in the front, except the original floor plan. This is the architect's drawing that he published, that the newspaper published. And it has 2 rooms in the front with a wide hallway in the middle where the front door comes. Then if you go straight back, there's another whole row of rooms. The children's room, the reading room, and the librarian's room in the middle. This other, everyone knows the salon room because that is the beautiful one with the murals. But on the other side were the stacks. So when you came into the library, you went up, turned left, and went into the stack room, which had an elevator down to the basement where you could, where the books were sorted and then taken up for installation in the stacks. So it was a very complete square. And that is what Preservation Alliance would like to restore, which the walls of all these walls are still in good condition and intact behind the plaster, except for the rear wall, which is a very nice design that has been presented to us of folding glass wall. And that would then react to the answer to the new design of the new library. So you have a glass wall facing the beautiful green. However, that glass wall would be retractable. So in the warm weather, we could fold open those doors and have a stage play, a concert, an event happening inside this whole back section of the design. And then in the winter or in the rain and whenever, we could unfold these, we could close the back wall and have an art gallery and events inside, etc. So that is the Alliance's plan. What I want to do is just briefly say that it has significance on every level imaginable. Wes Haynes, who is an advisor to the Preservation Alliance, has provided a lot of information for us. He is the director of the Merritt Parkway Conservancy, and he has gone up and down the Merritt Parkway many times. We compared our library building with all those in Connecticut and has come up with some very interesting observations. All the other libraries that he has inspected in Connecticut that were built around the turn of the century have been preserved, and they've had beautiful additions added to them to modernize them, bring them up to current requirements. I want to say that his history research has been extremely helpful. And I want the present condition of the original 1913 building has been declared in very good condition, according to the consultants that were hired by the town, the Cross Key Architects, they're called. And the town hired them to give an opinion on the condition of the library building, the original library building. And that this is the letter that they wrote in May 20th of 2021. The building retains many of its character defining features and is in very good condition. The historical significance. The people of New Canaan made several short-lived attempts to establish libraries of books accessible to the people, beginning with efforts by the Congregational Church in 1790. Like many Connecticut communities, funding them was problematic. Early attempts were based on subscription fees and have been beyond the means or the interest of residents. New Canaan lacked the kind of philanthropy present elsewhere in southwestern Connecticut, where wealth generated within the community or gifted by a generous native son successful in business elsewhere was used for that purpose. Yeah, okay. The New Canaan Library traces its roots to the New Canaan Free Reading Room and Circulating Library Corporation, which was incorporated in 1878. And they built a fireproof two-story commercial block building on Elm Street in 1885. It was designed by a New York architect, so there was a certain sophistication even then in New Canaan. Okay. Anyway, and the role of the newspaper is also extremely important to recall, because it was the newspaper that prompted people to come forward and start to request after the town hall that was built, to start to request and seriously fund this new building. I think one of the more interesting things in the whole story is the fact that there were 6 Beaux-Arts trained architects living in New Canaan at the time. And Arthur Taylor was one of them. And the others were the judges, who all were members of the American Institute of Architects. And they judged that the drawing for this new building would be the winner. at the end of the construction period, when the cornerstone was laid, the suffragists put in a box in the cornerstone. And there were only 30 suffragists in 1910 in New Canaan. The rest of the population were men and the non-suffragist women. They were very outnumbered, but they put something in the foundation cornerstone that I hope we don't uncover. Thank you.
What's
live transcription? I don't know what that is. That's beyond my technical ability. So sorry, Nathaniel, I don't know how to do that. Sorry. Okay, so we're going to switch to we have two people from the remote audience who would like to speak. Fred, can you hear us now? Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Betty Lebostic, you have your hand up. I'm going to, okay, you've unmuted yourself. So Betty, please state your, you've disappeared now. Where are you?
I'm still here. Can you hear me?
You just moved, yes. And state your address, please.
Hi, my name is Betty Lebostic. I live at 69 Old Norwalk Road here in New Canaan. For approximately 25 years, I'm very, very hands-on and involved in all aspects of our town because I enjoy so much living here and I guess volunteering my time for many organizations. In my comments, I would like to quote specifically from our current plan of conservation and development. I'm sorry I didn't have time to send a formal letter with comments and excerpts from the plan, but I wish to communicate this through public comment. In the overview on page 13 of the plan of conservation and development, it states that the plan specifically identifies preserving and enhancing the community character as a priority. There was a survey done at the time prior to the plan of conservation and development being formalized. And in that survey, maintaining the community character was identified as one of the most important issues by the residents. As a result, the plan specifically identifies that the intent is not to change the character of New Canaan, but to preserve it. Residents, and I'm quoting directly, residents clearly want to preserve what they love and cherish about New Canaan. I'm moving along to page 14. When the plan of conservation and development was being prepared, the town of New Canaan ran a photo contest. They asked all residents to please submit photos of images that celebrate what they hold important, what they cherish the most in New Canaan. It could be natural beauty, landscapes, wildlife, events, celebrations, architecture, anything that goes on in New Canaan. On page 14, two photos are displayed, among others, of birds and different things in New Canaan. One is the Waveney House built in 1912. And on the same page is a building built a year later, the 1913 library. So these are two buildings that the town residents held so important to them that they submitted photos for this, and it is permanently a part of our plan of conservation and development. I'm moving down to page 16, and in it, it says that the physical character and appearance of New Canaan is significant in attracting people to New Canaan. over the years. And it concludes with, the town should continue to recognize the importance of community character to residents and visitors. I agree with what's in the plan of conservation and development. What attracted me to New Canaan was the New England charm, and the library has been a second home to me and my family. I also own one of the library tote bags, and it has a picture of the 1913 library. My son prominently wears and could still fit into a t-shirt that we purchased probably 10 years ago of the 1913 library. What needs to be preserved is the 1913 building, not just 20 feet going in and 60 feet going across and the facade. What attracted us to New Canaan is the beauty of the library, and so many other residents cherish that thought too. Thank you very much.
Let's see, the other person is Richard Stowe.
Yes. Hi, I'm Richard Stowe. I live at 414 North Federal Highway in Lake Worth Beach, Florida. And I see a number of familiar names here on the Zoom call here, including my second grade teacher, Janet Lindstrom, at West School. In 1971, Rick Heedy, a friend of mine, who was working part-time at the library, New Canaan Library, suggested that I take his place and work part-time in 1971 and 72, and I did that. So I have a experience of the library growing up as a West School, Center School student, and then in high school working at the library in its incarnation, where you had the 1913, 1937, and 1952 editions all together. And that, I think, is the right size for preservation of the city, because it creates it will maintain the urban fabric that has existed there for generations. And to do that, I think the town should step up on behalf of the residents who oppose the demolition and negotiate a lot split and property exchange with the library board. The town would be responsible, the town would take ownership of the property on which the 1913, 1937, 1952 editions are sitting, and they would be responsible for the restoration of this part of the library. The 1979 library edition could be demolished at a point when it would be safe to do so, and the individuals and nonprofits such as the New Canaan Preservation Alliance, the town should welcome and accept donations by those interests to restore and rehabilitate the historic library structure. Thank you. Oh, and the property exchange could be where the town gave, or in exchange for the property along Cherry Street, gave a section of the Center School lot adjacent to Maple Street that would be where they put a stipulation that that area could only be used for library parking.
Any more comments?
Any more from either in person or remote? Close to public comment.
Close to public comments. All right. Let's talk among ourselves. Well, I guess I could start. I have a couple of observations. I mean, first of all, as was presented, and especially Mimi's description and the history of the library, it's very clear that the original 1913 building has very compelling history, both socially in the town and architecturally, given its architect, the effort to build it, the competition, the New York architects. So there's a lot of history there. It also seems like there's a great potential to repurpose it, which would become a great cultural asset to New Canaan, to use its full footprint, including the 5 rooms that originally were built. I think it offers a lot of opportunities for different events, or whether it's exhibits or music venues or whatever. And its location, its central location is also important. So there's a lot of potential there for a cultural asset. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, is as I am looking at the growing construction of the new library, which is magnificent, it seems to me that the original building is becoming more and more diminutive. And I see very comfortable space between the original building and the new library, so that in no way do I see that it competes with the new library. There's very generous open space between the two. And I believe a solution could be arrived at to satisfy, both the use of the old building and access to the new building. So those are my thoughts.
There's no question in my mind that this is an important asset to the town. There's no question in my mind that it has a history. It has all the prerequisites for a building that should be saved. I'm very unhappy about the way this whole process is taking place. It's very sad. I'm sure that we could have all come together earlier on this and worked out well, there really is no compromise. The 1913 building is an important building. It is an important asset. It was built at a time in New Canaan, which was a very interesting time, having got a lot of research and newspapers about other issues of that time. The town came together and raised a lot of money at that time to build this building. I think that is an important aspect of it. So I believe that the original building should remain in situ and be used for other purposes of other, as been suggested by the Alliance. I think it's important. We have an historic district in this town, which is under fire right now. We have got to, if we don't preserve the past, it'll be destroyed. It's very sad. So I hope we can all agree that this building should be saved, and if the powers to be that can help this happen are allowed to do so. Thank you.
Fred, do you want to speak? Can you unmute yourself, or do you want me to do it? You're still muted. Let me hang on. Ask to unmute. Let me see. Can I unmute you? Hang on. You got it.
I think I'm unmuted.
Yeah, you're okay.
You're good.
Let me,
You got an echo. Wait a second.
because I couldn't hear you except going through the telephone.
Okay, good.
I've now turned my telephone off so that that there's no echo. First, let me say it's an honor to work on this committee and for have my first meeting be so well attended by the public and commented upon. I gained a heightened sense of responsibility with respect to our duties. It seems to me, as I look at this, and I look at this principally from my perspective of being a lawyer, our function here is a narrow one, not to make determinations with respect to what's right or wrong, but whether it falls within our jurisdiction to say that there should be a 90-day suspension of any demolition. And I don't think there's any question with respect to what's been presented that there should be a 90-day suspension of demolition. Not the least of which reason is, at least from the application as I've reviewed it, one has to have either second sight or a great ability of trust in those who are going to do the demolition, what is going to be destroyed. I don't think that the application that we've seen, at least that I've seen and have reviewed, is definitive enough. I suppose that when this committee was created, the belief was that it was either going to be a building or not. But what is being proposed here is the demolition of a portion. But that portion is not at all clear from the application. That to me would be reason enough to vote for the suspension, putting aside all the rather remarkable and compelling historical evidence as to why this is an important issue to preserve. So that in my first meeting here, and of which I am proud to be a member and happy to participate, I believe our duty is to grant the town and all interested parties more time to consider what needs to be done, including to know precisely what it is the library proposes, the Library Association proposes to be done in the demolition. End of speech.
Thank you, Brett.
Do you want to say something?
I do.
Please do.
Okay. Of course, I wrote it down.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So I'm kind of following up to a great degree what Fred said. Okay. I feel the issue at hand is two or potentially threefold. I must initially question the validity of this demolition application, even being in process at this time, and certainly our ability to assess the owner's intent, as there appear to be significant missing information. Demolition application itself is contradictory in that in part 2, under square footage of the structure to be demolished, it states 37,323, which is the total square footage of the library on the attached field cards, while on the letter of authorization it states this excludes the front more or less 1,300 square feet of the original 1913 portion of the building to be preserved as per P&Z conditions of approval, asterisk, with no explanation of the asterisk. The stated square footages are contradictory, vague, and unclear. A drawing titled Library Zoning Plan, which seems to primarily indicate garbage truck clearance, was submitted later, as Mark showed us, which did highlight the front portion of the 1913 building and stated legacy building to be moved out, demolished. I would think in such a situation as this, as Frederick pointed out, very detailed drawings would be required prior to proceeding with a demolition application. Also, I do not believe Planning and Zoning has approved the library's final site plan, but more importantly for our purposes, P&Z only has approved of at best a conceptual sketch of the library's proposal of the solution for the legacy building. No actual architectural drawings have been presented to my knowledge, so we don't really know what we are voting on here. All we know is that based on the application, a building which is 37,323 square feet is to be demolished, with some portion of the original building and some portion of the original building is not going to be demolished. And that's a little vague for us. I'm assuming my objection to the application being in process is moot. So now to our task at hand. The question of whether the building located at 151 Main Street, specifically the original 1913 portion in New Canaan, rises to the level of being worthy of imposition of a demolition delay does not even scratch the surface here of the importance of this building in and to this community. Is this building a landmark in our community? Does it fit the three criteria by which our committee is to judge a building? A, is it associated with events that have made a noted contribution to our local history? Yes. It has served over 100 years of events, both large and small, as the cornerstone of New Canaan, as the library itself stated in past promotions. B, is it associated with the lives of persons noted in local history? Yes. The founders of the library also founded the New Canaan Historical Society and the local chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution. C, does it embody distinctive characteristics of a time, period, or method of construction? Check, check, check. That is rare or disappearing and worthy of preservation? Check, check, check. Or represents the work of a noted architect, builder, or craftsman? At least one check, and I believe two. Or possesses high artistic values or distinctive design features or craftsmanship? Check, check, check. This building is a hallmark of the City Beautiful movement and, in combination with our 1909 Town Hall, served as bookends for our unique colonial revival downtown, whose character has been recognized and included both in the Village Design District Guidelines and the Plan of Conservation and Development. Note the siting of both the library and the Town Hall, which are both set back an appropriate distance from Main Street on a slight rise. In general, is this considered an important building to our town? Is it a New Canaan landmark? That's an easy one. I present for the record an article in which it is featured in Landmarks of New Canaan. As Keith Simpson also included that in his presentation. So here it is, Landmarks of New Canaan. Published by the New Canaan Historical Society in 1951. I also submit the pamphlet, A Practical and Useful Enterprise, published by the New Canaan Library in 1977, in celebration of a century of service to the town, in which the library lauds the design and history of this building. As evidence of the importance of the 1913 library in our community, it is one of the most photographed, painted, and sketched buildings in our town. Here are just a few examples of how New Canaanites have viewed, loved, and honored this structure for over 100 years. Images speak better than words. Now, I have to wrap all this up, and I'm going to temper this a little bit because I do appreciate what Ms. Oldham said, the way that she phrased things today. Okay. From the beginning, the library knew decisions regarding the 1913 library would be a lightning rod in our community. At some point in this 10-year plus process, the architect supposedly did not have the ability to figure out how to add on to any portion of the existing building, even though so many before him have accomplished this. The library made the decision it all had to go, but kept that decision very quiet. The library has stood by that decision, but eventually had to alter their course based upon community reaction and have produced a compromise. I believe our community has learned a lot lately from this situation and other current situations about what is and what is not preservation and conservation. For an institution, whose stated mission is to inspire lifelong learning through innovation and discovery and be the information and cultural center of the community, I am not convinced the library has actually listened to their entire community and to input from preservation professionals and learn as well. The preservation world is not a world of whim and pretty pictures. It is a world of science and well-established rules and regulations. Prior to the big reveal in 2020, the library did graciously share with me their plan of the new New Canaan Library, sans 1913. Following the big reveal, I made numerous public statements suggesting the library meet with this committee to review how the 1913 library could be preserved and incorporated into the existing plan. But we were never approached by the library for such a conversation. Throughout this entire process, the owner and their representatives have demonstrated a lack of understanding of both their building and especially of preservation. The purpose of a 90-day demolition delay is to give the owner one final opportunity. This is what we're supposed to do, to appropriately preserve the building in question. That's a general thing we're supposed to do. I sincerely encourage the library to do everything in its power to embrace true preservation for this most deserving of buildings. I attach a very brief preservation primer, and I'd like to give this to the library. It's a very limited primer of sorts regarding this statement. I strongly encourage the library to engage an appropriate, qualified preservation professional who understands historic structures and who will not gut this building, cut it in half, remove elements which do not need to be removed, and if at all feasible, will leave it where it stands and has stood for over 100 years. If the library and the town continue on the path indicated at the December 2021 Planning and Zoning meeting, this is not preservation. If cutting the original building in half, removing the majority of the original fabric, replacing these items with substitute materials, and relocating the building in an unintended setting is the final solution, please do not go public with a statement that this is preservation. I'm sorry, but it will be an embarrassment to our community. I mean, that's the end of my statement. That's where we are. That's it.
Thank you, Rich.
That's where I am.
Okay, pretty clear.
Thank you.
What? Yeah. Is there a motion to impose the 90-day delay? Second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Let me unmute Fred. Ask to unmute.
I vote aye.
Aye. Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you.
Just a question. On that you voted, I have a question, and that is, I agree with the statement, which I didn't make very well, but I'm wondering why this could not be wrong. It does not seem to me that anything is clear. The money is not clear. The plan is not clear. And it seems to be kind of a...
That's not us.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
That's not us.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
All in favor? Aye. Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.
Hey, Charlie.
Okay.
Huh? Thank you.